It's an old statement that says that goes in when you're incarcerated, after 2 years, your friends go 4 years or 5 years, your family. I think the only one that's left is your mother. Family, we're at a point in our existence where we have to get them out. Period. We're going to end up on someone's plate. Alive. So what we're here to do today is express to the family what it is that all of us can do. All of us must do. Because he's asked at this point that all Nuwaubians stand up. Who received the email? Who forwarded it? This is from him. This president, him as a president, is not anything new. If those that remember know that we have a constitution. In our constitution, in the very first page, remember this picture? What does the first word say? President. And as a president, and as a nation, in international law as they're called principles. Certain principles have been established in international law since the 1800s, when the Roman statutes, which the international laws came out of, governs the laws of nations. And we are a nation. We are indigenous people. Whether your blood is mixed in with Africans who were the Olmecs, who were here on this side of the globe when the continental shift occurred. By right, those were and are considered Africans and the descendants of Africans, but indigenous to this land from various Native American tribes. For those that have followed the masters since the 90s, we had classes called factology versus theology. People remember those? When he expressed that. He expressed one day we'll have to go in front of the international law, international court, and his little niggas do not punk out. He told us, don't punk out because it's going to come a day and a time when all Nuwaubians worldwide, those that have been scattered, and we'll get into the scattering, not by your own report, it was by force, which is against international laws. No indigenous people shall be forced to be removed or transferred from their land. It's in the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And I'm saying these things so you can look it up yourself, so you'll be familiar with it, so you'll know what laws you've accepted and it governs and protects your rights. Not necessarily govern. We govern ourselves. But in the international community, there are laws that protect indigenous people. Those that are not slaves, not ex-slaves, not servants. People who know their bloodline and know their genetic link back to the indigenous Native Americans, whether Yamasee, Wichita, Shinnecock, Shoshone, which we all are mixed in, as you see the many faces and descriptions, characteristics in here. We're all from that family, but we all are Nuwaubian, which is a name that existed before the Constitution and his government established themselves here with our permission. And these facts have to be recognized in order for the unison and the tone the mental link that all of us need to have when it's time for that door to open. We don't need anyone doubting or having second questions about who you are. If you still think that, because I know there's questions, I hear people expressing that as the government of the United States accepted us, I hear the questions, they've been coming in my email. Has the UN accepted the United Nation of the Wapi? We existed before the UN. The UN was signed, the charter for the UN was put together and signed and enforced in 1945 in San Francisco. We were here before them. So we don't need them to authenticate who we are. All right? So let's establish that. So get out of that. Don't come at us with, as the government acknowledged us. They better be happy we acknowledge them. All right? So our president, as the sovereign head of state, is an internationally protected person. Meaning amongst the international community, he is not to be touched, first and foremost. He is not to be governed. He is not to be labeled. He does not adhere to anyone's laws, courts, jurisdiction, citations, judicial processes, in no court in any land except ours. That has to be established as well. When you acknowledge your sovereign president, you acknowledge him as a sovereign ruler. By the fact that he exists and the fact that we say, us as Nuwapians claim, this is who our president is. This was done on June 26, 1992, as it says when you accepted your Constitution. This was drafted for indigenous people of the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, and this will be modified. The reason why it has Moors on here is because at the time, the master was trying to involve the Noble Drew Ali family and bring them on board with what we were doing. So he involved them as Moors and claiming that it involved a family of Nuwapians who were lost. Just like he used the word reverend for Christians who were lost. And As-Said al-Imam Isa al-Hadi for Muslims who were lost. So don't start questioning why is it more there. He did it for a specific reason. And those that know, he knows what he's doing. Alright? So we are the United Nation of the Wapi. Our land was indigenous land. International law again. You cannot force. First, let me back up. What determines a nation is a group of people, look it up for yourself. A nation state in international law is a group of people that governs or controls a common land, a body of land. It doesn't have to be a stipulated 500 acres or 200 acres. We had land up in Jazeera Aba, upstate New York, which was being established as Native American land. And those that know from then know that he was known as we were known as kin to, remember? Say it? Kin to Ben York. At the time we had our religious practices, yes. We were known as Nubian Islamic Hebrews. That was the religious aspect of it. But our bloodline and descendancy has always been indigenous Native Americans. And then we revealed to them our name. We let them, we gave them our name, but we didn't give them the definition. We still haven't given them the definition. We allowed them to know who we were by saying we are Nuwapi, all right? International laws, which the U.S. has breached multiple times by the fact of his incarceration and kidnapping, not incarceration, he was kidnapped, which is a violation of the rights of internationally protected people and persons. The International Court is the court that governs nations. They have jurisdiction over nation states. meaning if there's a dispute between China and Japan, people have heard this over and over. Last week, we've been going over this. The dispute is brought in front of the international court. If you have not signed on to the charter of the United Nations Charter, if you're not a signatory of that charter, you have to declare jurisdiction with the court. You have to allow the court jurisdiction over a dispute that you are presenting. There are nations that are not members of the United Nations. One of them is the Vatican. Look it up. The Vatican is not a member of the United Nations. Though the Vatican is a sovereign nation. And in fact, it's the smallest sovereign nation. Who knows this fact? Raise your hand. It is a sovereign nation. You know who the Pope is. The Pope is their head of state. Now it's becoming clearer, correct? Why is it that all of these Catholic priests are not being charged for these crimes? Why is that? Absolutely. They're sovereign. The only nation that can bring them on charges is the Vatican. They have to be tried in a Vatican court. There was a time where you watch movies, or we may watch lots of movies where these guys ran into the Catholic Church. And what happened? They couldn't be pursued. They gained asylum, meaning protection, because it was a sovereign state. This is sovereign land. That's what an embassy is. An embassy is the property of a sovereign nation. Okay, so that's established. International law, a dispute has arisen between Nuwapians and who? The United States. What are some of the violations? Kidnapping. Slander is one, because you cannot create, according to the rights of indigenous people, you cannot, a state shall not, look it up, create propaganda that will discriminate against indigenous people. It occurred in Eden several times. Another violation is the forcible transfer of all Nuwapians. All of you who are living in a foreign land, which is the United States, because we claimed our indigenous land, and we acquired indigenous land, and we attempted to build on our indigenous land and claim self-government, and claims, which is our right as autonomous, that inalienable right to autonomously govern ourselves without the intervention of other governments. Their laws never have applied to us. They never did. What are we getting at? We're getting at the fact that in international court, the dispute has been, it's called an application. An application to institute proceedings against another country was sent to the international court. I read it online. I don't think it's necessary to read it again tonight, unless you absolutely want me to read a portion so you can hear different aspects of it. There's several parts of this application. This application has a subject of dispute. It has a statement of facts. We allow the international court jurisdiction because we are self-government people. And in our self-government, what the United States has done has forced our government into exile. You follow that? When they invaded our land and removed our governmental buildings, the property in there was our governmental property which governed our nation. And those that know, that gathered on the land, know we had our own laws. And having our own laws, we had our own establishment that rendered our people free